Because now I'm about to turn my attention to the Democrats in the presidential election they lost 4 weeks ago. I mentioned it just a second ago. I'm going to mention it again because the news doesn't get any better in terms of how much they spent to win. The Harris campaign reportedly paid Al Sharpton's nonprofit organization $500,000 prior to the vice president's sit-down with a civil rights activist and an MSNBC host. According to records from the Federal Election Commission, the Harris-Walz campaign made two separate donations of $250,000 to Sharpton's group on September 5th and October 1st. Harris sat down with Sharpton for an MSNBC interview that aired on October 20th, nearly 3 weeks after the donations from her campaign to the National Action Network took place. How you think that looks? See, I know a lot of people going to sit up here and they're going to want me to get on Reverend Al Sharpton. I know a lot of people who would have taken the money. I'm not going to knock him for that. He was going to vote for her no matter what. He certainly wasn't going to vote for Trump. Oprah Winfrey and the $2.5 million. I didn't like that her production company received, but it wasn't illegal. It just came across as a bit disingenuous because if you're that fervent of a supporter for Kamala Harris, why do you need to be paid? If you're a billionaire, especially, and it's $2.5 million. Now, Sharpton and the National Action Network, they don't have billions. I'm not going to knock them for taking the money. I don't applaud it. I don't think it looks great. But there's no crime committed here, at least as far as I know. Kamala Harris, her campaign, and the Democrats are another matter. Do you have any idea how pathetic y'all look? That you were literally paying people who supported you before they sat down with you and gave you the interview. What would be the incentive to that? Could that be so they didn't ask you certain questions and they did ask you other questions and that you knew the interviews were going to be all nice and fluffy and cozy inside? Was that it? Because it makes no sense. Oprah Winfrey was not going to vote for Donald Trump. Al Sharpton was not going to vote for Donald Trump. His support for you and the Democratic Party is clear and consistent. So how do you look paying him? How do you look paying Oprah or the bevy of other individuals that will probably learn you paid before you sat down and did interviews with them? It doesn't look good. Now, if that's not bad enough, and you're just saying that Stephen A., this is no political aficionado, who the hell is he to open his mouth about this particular subject? Okay, let's go to a Democratic strategist that has existed for years, especially one who made a name for himself during the Clinton administration or Clinton's campaign to the White House. How about Mr. James Carville himself? Let's see what he had to say. Right there, the word unfathomable when it came to spending and how it's going to hurt the Democratic brand. The resistance is going to have trouble raising money. Amen to that. First of all, how you blow $1.5 billion? Secondly, what the hell are you doing needing more money and more fundraising to be done when you were already given $1.5 billion? Third, where the hell did that money go? Is that why you spent? Is that why you gave Oprah some money? Is that why you gave Al Sharpton some money? Because you wanted to justify the allocation of those funds? I don't know the answer to this question. I know it looks bad. I know it looked desperate. And I also know that when you consider the inordinate amount of times where there were interviews that Kamala Harris could have done and should have done, but failed to do, probably on the advice of her counsel, filled with a bunch of young folks wet behind the ears, breath smelling like Similac, ideologues, fixated on changing the fabric and the culture of America, it slammed right in their face. How could you do something like this? How could you look this way? Got stars out there showing up. Did they get paid too? I don't know the answer to these questions. I know they're legitimate questions. It just looks that damn bad. I didn't believe, and I could not have believed that when Donald Trump was running for office and decided to run for re-election, and when he blew the moment, because remember, there was an assassination attempt, not just the two, but the first one, When the blood was trickling down his face, he was on the ground and he was raised up and Secret Service was surrounding him and he raised his fist in the air and the American flag was behind him. I didn't think there was a better visual that a politician could ever get in their lifetime. But then he opened his mouth in the days and the weeks and the months to follow. And I said to myself, I've never seen anybody blow an opportunity the way Donald Trump did. And somehow, some way, it all ended up to be not true. Why? Because the Democrats made it so. It wasn't just about him winning. Y'all lost big time. Because people were calling y'all hypocrites. And they were calling y'all full of it. And they were saying y'all can't be trusted any more than you say he can't be trusted. And then you go out and you prove them right. You've got nothing. If you're the Democratic Party, here's my advice to you. Shut up. Wait for him to get pushed into office or to accept inauguration on January 20th, and he becomes the 47th president of the United States officially. Wait for then, and then judge him accordingly. Stop talking about the past. The American people have already told you to kick rocks. They don't care what you have to say anymore as Democrats. You have been squashed, obliterated. Nobody in the White House. You don't have the House. You don't have the Senate. And then you're going to walk around talking about how, oh, well, he didn't get 50% of the vote. Well, you didn't either. You lost. And every time you bring up something now, and every time something comes up, you look even worse. Donald Trump is walking into office looking good. Looking good. Because of you. Because of how y'all chose to act. How y'all chose to conduct yourself. How you leaned on to the fringes and got a bit extreme and engaged in culture and identity politics and wokeness and all of this other stuff. You look bad. And Biden was supposed to be the dude that was so upstanding that he gives his word and he keeps his word, even though we knew he wasn't going to do it. And all he had to do was say, "It's my son." A one-sentence statement. It's my son, America. I could not live with myself in my last years knowing that I let him go to prison. I could not do it. That's all he had to say. But he was feeling himself yet again and put his foot in his mouth yet again. And not just on behalf of himself, but on the Democratic Party. No wonder why a healthy portion of America is done with y'all. You do this to yourself. You do it to yourself.